Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fight Song Sports Podcast. As always, my name is Ty Hansen. Joining me today, Bryson Lewis. Bryson, we've got some college basketball we're going to talk about today. A little bit about the Huskers and the Sooners. We're going to get into some teams we want to watch, some exciting teams we think could maybe make a run at the tournament and make some noise in the tournament later down the road. But first, we're going to open up with some OU football. They got a couple commits that you wanted to discuss. Happened pretty much right after we got done with the podcast last week. So I'll let you talk a little bit about them and who OU was able to pick up.
Yeah, I want to say it was about like 20, 30 minutes after the signing day podcast wrapped up. OU picked up a preferred walk-on commitment from running back Tawee Walker, I believe is how you say his name. Originally from Arizona, kind of a smaller back, listed at 5'10", plays JUCO ball out in California. He rushed for just under 900 yards on the season, about 80 yards a game. He was selected as all conference out there, and he's preferred walk-on. But I definitely think he'll have an opportunity to earn a scholarship throughout the regular season because that OU running back room is pretty light on bodies. Then on Saturday, OU picked up wide receiver commitment Ashton Kozart of the 2023 class from Flower Mound, Texas, listed at 6'3", 175. Another DFW 2023 kid to pair with Jackson Arnold, the 2023 quarterback commitment from Denton Guyer. On tape, I like his route running a lot. I think Rivals has him as a 3-star, but On3 has him in the top 100. ESPN has him in the top 100, and he's in the top 150 on 24/7. So I definitely think he's going to get a bump up to 4-star on Rivals, but on tape, his route running looks really, really good. And obviously having that DFW rapport, just building that class is going to help out a lot.
Yeah, a little bit about Tawee Walker, as you mentioned, happened pretty much right after we got done recording last week's podcast. Was an interesting one, a walk-on that I don't know really anybody saw coming. And I believe, if I remember you saying it right, like none of the coaches followed him on Twitter or anything.
Yeah.
It was really weird. Yeah, it was really weird. I thought that was interesting. And as you mentioned, a preferred walk-on, which kind of made a little bit of sense. But yeah, that one that was kind of weird. But yeah, they got some good guys for obviously this class and one for next class. But we'll jump into the basketball here. We'll start off with the Huskers. Man, has not been the year that we were expecting. This was supposed to be the year that Fred Hoiberg was supposed to have things turned around, and Nebraska ball was supposed to be back. And has gone south. 6-17 this year, 0-12 in the Big Ten. Just an atrocious year. Fred Hoiberg starting to lose the fans a little bit. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of Pinnacle Bank recently, but it's half empty. And for Nebraska, even though it's basketball and we're not known as a basketball school, Pinnacle Bank Arena is usually pretty full, and it's looking pretty empty. And I think fans are starting to get on Hoiberg a little bit about it. He's got him 338th in scoring defense this year. Defense has been the big issue for the Huskers. That is last in the Power 5. 313th in three-point shooting percentage, 275th in three-point defense, 283rd in fouls. It's just an atrocious team, and a team that really wouldn't be any good if they're playing in a mid-major conference. They've lost 10 straight. They haven't won a game since December 22nd. They haven't beat a Power 5 school. They're 0-6 on the road. They've only given up under 70 points 6 times, and 3 of those being to mid-majors. It's just been atrocious. It's not even close to even being winning basketball of any sorts, even a 500 team. They're not even close. And Hoiberg, it's not like the guys are bad. Hoiberg is bringing in phenomenal recruiting classes. You've got the McGowens brother, Bryce, being the first 5-star in Nebraska history. I've got the recruiting numbers listed here. 2020, which would have been Hoiberg's first class, tied for 41st in the country. 2021, ranked 13th. 2022, just moved up today to 27th. That's for Nebraska. That's incredible. That is not, we are not a basketball program, but to be that high is, the win should be there just with the talent, and they're not. it's been a disaster this year, and I don't know where to go. I don't know what the move is for Nebraska. I don't know if getting rid of Fred Hoiberg is the move. I've got some more numbers here. He currently is 20-62 at Nebraska for a 244 win percentage. When he was at Iowa State, he went 115-56 for a 673 win percentage. So, I mean, he's winning 43% less games. I mean, I don't know. And I don't want to place all of the blame on him. He's the head coach. He's from Lincoln. He was supposed, there's this big movement around Nebraska sports right now with bringing guys back, right? You've got Frost, you've got Hoiberg, you've got Will Bolt, former, Husker there, coaching the baseball team. I don't want to put it all on him, but when you're supposed to be the guy that's supposed to be the savior and turn the program around, and this was supposed to be the year to do it, and we were supposed to be back, it's almost unacceptable. But I'll defer the blame a little bit from him here and just kind of put it on the program as a whole. The last winning record on the road, so in away games only, the 1998-99 season. I mean, we weren't even born yet, was the last time we had a 500 record on the road, which is, I mean, that was 23 years ago. The last time they had an above 500 record, 1990-91, they went 8-4 on the road. I mean, that was what are you supposed to do? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm lost for words on it. I want to say get rid of Hoiberg, but I don't know. I mean, because I look at the Iowa State numbers and it's like, man, this guy is legit. He's a great college basketball coach. And then you get to Nebraska and this is what we get. So is it the program as a whole, just because it is Nebraska basketball and they haven't been good since the 90s? I know that's not the only sport we say that about, but they haven't been good since the 90s. So is it just the Nebraska team? Is it just that? Or is it him? And I don't know. I mean, we'll get your perspective on it now that I'm done kind of ranting about it, but continue and put on your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Hoiberg was a big college basketball name. Iowa State obviously know him very well, being in the Big 12, and his teams were always just really, really good. And a tough Big 12. I mean, the Big 12 is just always put out good college basketball seasons. And, he obviously made the jump to the Bulls after the 2015 college basketball season, and he just didn't do very well there. And I don't know if maybe he's not back into his style yet, but I mean, at this point, I think maybe he gets one more year. I mean, that 2021 class, I mean, 13th in the country is very, very good for college basketball. And especially in the Big Ten where, I mean, Ohio State has their good seasons. Michigan has been pretty hot recently, but I mean, it's pretty wide open other than those teams, and then Wisconsin occasionally. I think maybe he gets one more year, but I mean, it's definitely not all his fault. I mean, the program obviously has been struggling for a long time, but Fred Hoiberg he was really, really good at Iowa State. So it's just tough to explain.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's an interesting situation because his recruiting is so good. He's bringing in guys that we have literally never had before, and we're probably the worst we've ever been. So I don't know. It's definitely interesting. We had Tim Miles before, who was he was a good coach and was good for Nebraska, but maybe just couldn't get us over the hump and get us into the tournament and do some damage there. We're the only Power 5 school without a NCAA tournament win, unfortunately. And that's kind of been the goal. That's been what we've had our eyes set on. And then you bring in Hoiberg and, his first year, it was like, okay, we got probably our coach now, a Lincoln guy, and was able to bring in some good kids, some good recruiting classes. If you would have told me when we hired Fred Hoiberg that, midway through his third year, he would have 20 wins, I would say in that season, that's pretty good. But no, that's his entire career at Nebraska. He has 20 wins. I mean, he's gone 7-7, and then this year they've got 6. I don't know. I don't know. I'm almost just at a loss for words. The defense is atrocious. I mean, you've only given up under 70 points 6 times. Doesn't matter how good your offense is. That's gonna be tough to win. I mean, when you're giving up, 75, 80 points a game, and you got to expect your offense to put up, 85. Like, you got to get hot to win, and it's not happening. And so, I don't know. It'll be an interesting rest of the year for Nebraska. They got Minnesota tomorrow night, and I have a feeling if things continue to go downhill, then Fred Hoiberg might not be the coach of the Nebraska Huskers next year. But in what's left of the season, he also could salvage it. And maybe, I don't know, maybe you're able to upset a team in the Big Ten tournament and pick up a win and 2 wins. I think that might be his saving grace if that happens. That might be the only thing that keeps him around. And just surprise somebody in the tournament. And I mean, I don't know, but this isn't a team that's going to do that. So we'll have to see. I mean, big changes are going to happen and have to happen quick. I mean, he's already at one point in his Nebraska tenure has lost 17 games in a row. He's got 10 right now. It's not looking good. So I don't know. Not an exciting year for Nebraska, and a year that was supposed to be the year that we were going to turn it around and make the tournament and have a good team. We're 6-17 and it's February 8th. So I don't know. Not good for sure. I'm just kind of at a loss for words with how bad it is. There's not much else to say other than it's bad. But we'll move on to OU. I'll let you talk a little bit about that. They got an interesting team this year, and we'll let you discuss here.
Yeah. OU, obviously, first-year head coach Porter Moser coming from Loyola Chicago. In the offseason, they had lost a lot of people, lawn leaves. And I mean, just especially with the way the portal is in college basketball, you're going to lose a lot of bodies. And so, I mean, they've really just got a group of guys that they threw together from the portal. They started the season very well. I want to say they were 12-3 at one point, and they've now fallen to 13-10. And a lot of those losses have just been close games. They're 1-7 in the last 8. Lost close ones on the road at TCU, at home against Kansas. Look like they might have a chance to pull off the upset, and then the whistles kind of go KU's way down the stretch, which I guess you get used to when you're in the Big 12. But I mean, Kansas is obviously a very good basketball team. And then before TCU, you had to play Baylor on the road. You kind of hang with them. You only lose by 10. Baylor was number 1 in the country at the time. That obviously is, 10 points is a respectable loss. But you come back home off that TCU loss, you lose close to Kansas. And that Baylor game, out of the gate, Baylor was up 10-0. OU gets it down to 2 points, and about midway through the second half, Tanner Groves gets called for a foul on a play where he gets kneed in the head, and he picks up a technical foul, arguing with the refs. And it was a 4-point swing, and it went from 2 points to 6 points, and then up to like 14. And Baylor just pulled away late. Then they played on the road against Auburn, who's obviously number 1 team in the country. They just look phenomenal right now. They got blown out. Game was never particularly close. And then they lose another game at home to TCU. They go on the road to Stillwater and lose a game. It was close early, but just same story in that game, just turnovers, sloppy basketball. Just a couple, just bad turnovers, especially on the hands of Elijah Harkless. He's just been a guy that didn't really make the jump. Late in the season last year, he looked like a guy that maybe OU could not really handle the ball, but he would be the guy that maybe could get you a bucket. And OU just hasn't had that guy this year. Harkless lit it up in the first half of Bedlam, and then second half comes out and like 5 turnovers in the first 8 minutes of the second half. And there's just really no explaining that. They've also got Tanner Groves, obviously picked him up from Eastern Washington. He had a phenomenal performance against KU in the tournament last year. They've got them listed at 6'10", 235, but they just can't get a board down there. And they've tried to rotate guys in. You've got Colton Moen coming in off the bench, but I mean, just nobody's grabbing rebounds. And when you're turning the ball over and not getting boards like OU is, it's just not a recipe for success.
Yeah, you touched on the two notes that I had. The first one being the close games, 7 of their 10 losses by 10 points or less. I mean, they're in it. They're not getting blown out. They got a good team. But you got to win. You got to win the close ones, and especially if you're going to get into the Big 12 tournament and maybe even into March Madness. That's where you got to be really, really good. That's where the good teams get to show it. Is that they win the close games.
Absolutely.
And then Tanner Groves, as you mentioned, 6'10", 235, a big guy. But the rebounds, he's not the best rebounder in the world. But I do think that he is very versatile. I mean, he's 6'10" and can really light it up from three, which you don't see often. He definitely plays like a 4 or a 5, but can shoot. And it showed last year. He lit up Kansas 35 in the tournament. And that was a fun game to watch. I remember that Eastern Washington game against Kansas. Kept it close, and he's good. But I agree. The turnovers, and when you're turning the ball over and not grabbing rebounds, and you're losing by 10 or less, there you go. It's pretty much just what it boils down to.
Yeah, there's just no consistent score. From Bedlam, Harkless and Groves, I mean, that was Groves. He really came alive. He's been struggling the last month or so, but Harkless and Grove combined for 38, and the rest of the team shoots 7 for 32. I mean, that's just never going to get it done. And, Oklahoma State, I mean, they obviously can't play in the tourney this year. And I mean, they're not particularly good. But I mean, even against teams that are slightly below average, maybe that's just never going to get it done. People thought maybe Mo Gibson would step up. And when he's hot, he's really hot, and he can get a bucket from anywhere. But when he's off, you just can't count on him. And Jordan Goldwire, Duke transfer, never really brought in to be a point scorer. And when games are kind of getting away from Oklahoma a little bit, maybe like 10, 12 points, he tends to kind of pick them up a little bit, but there's just no consistency. And I think coming into the year, OU fans probably expected to be on the bubble. The goal was probably to make the NCAA tournament, which is something that OU did really consistently under Lon Kruger. Right now they're on the bubble. I mean, a couple of places have them as one of the last 4 teams in. But the schedule is just not getting any easier. 3 of their next 3 games are against ranked opponents. They've got Texas Tech tomorrow night, then they got to go to Kansas, and then Texas comes to town. But they've got 8 games remaining. 4 of those last 8 are ranked teams. And you're going to have to probably find a way to win 4 out of the next 8 games. And the way that they're playing, it's just difficult to imagine that's going to happen. But maybe they turn it around late here in the season, can pick up a couple wins, but it just hasn't looked good recently.
And as you mentioned, they got a tough schedule to end the year, but that's also part of playing in the Big 12 when you have teams like Texas Tech, Baylor, Kansas. You gotta show them play every night. Every team's good. And you can look and be like, oh man, their schedule is tough the rest of the year, and that stinks for them. But that's kind of what you signed up for when you play Big 12 basketball. It's probably one of the best conferences in the country for it. But with that being said, if I am KU or Baylor or Texas, and I got to go into Norman and play this OU team, you better show up and play, because this is a team that can't beat you. I mean, I just said it, but 7 of their 10 losses by 10 points or less, they're going to play you close. You're not going to walk into Norman and just expect to walk out with a win, and they'll hand it to you. And you just take your, 4-hour drive back to Waco, and it's whatever. You got to show up and play. And this is a team that I think if things start to turn around and they start to get hot, they could make the tournament and maybe do some damage too. It's there. They got to clean it up. I mean, you've got a coach that's been there and done it. You lost a coach that's been there and done it. You've got guys on the team that have been there and done it. So anytime you got a first-year coach, no matter who it is, you're going to have setbacks. And I think to be in this position I think you got to be happy, but there's things that that the Sooners need to clean up. And if they do, I think they're a good team. And I think they're a team that you don't want to play, especially down the stretch. I mean, you know, they're able to pick up maybe 2 ranked wins, and you're able to get, 5 or 6 of the last 8, headed into the Big 12 tournament, pick up a couple there. They get into the tournament, March Madness. I don't know. It's a team that you really want to play much. So I don't know. I mean, I think it goes either one of 2 ways. I think they either turn it on and take advantage of what they have, or the struggles continue and it just kind of, falls into an average team that, missed the tournament. It's whatever. So,
yeah, absolutely. I think if they can win three games, you're right there on the bubble. If they can pick up 4 the next 8, maybe win that first game in the Big 12 tournament. Right now, it looks like they might be stuck in one of those playing games in the Big 12 tournament, just to get into a game against Kansas or Baylor, whoever it might be. But I mean, if you can pick up 4 of these next 8, you can probably get your way into the tournament with you being in the Big 12 and obviously a lot of non-conference wins. I do think it's absolutely a team that can win a tournament game. I don't see a run past the second round, but I mean, they could definitely win one, which I think would be pretty good considering a lot of transfers and Porter Moser's first year.
Yeah. And you say a team that you don't think makes it past the second round, but I mean, look who you got at head coach. It's not the first time he's heard that, and he knows it. Absolutely. So they also could turn it around. And, as I said, I don't know that that's a team that I want to play in March in the second round. I don't know. We'll see. They can go one of 2 ways.
Absolutely.
But we'll keep it on the topic of March Madness. Get into a little bit of some tournament teams that we want to keep our eye on headed into the latter part of the season, conference tournaments, and obviously into March Madness. We'll start with my first one here. I have the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. This is a team that people have really started to notice. They can light it up, man. They can absolutely score and run up the scoreboard. They're 21-4. They're 12-0 in the Summit League. They're second in the country in points per game, first in 3-point field goal percentage, second in total field goal percentage. These dudes can absolutely score. I mean, they can light it up, and that means something in March. Led by Baylor Shireman, 15.5 points per game. Dude shooting 46% from 3, 33 minutes a game, and he's got 10 double-doubles. To me, I see that on a Summit League team that's 21-4 and can score really well. This looks like a team that can definitely pull an upset in March.
Absolutely. I know Joe Lenardi's got them slotted in as a 13 seed right now. And I mean, with the way they shoot the ball, I mean, they can score with anyone in the country. That's definitely a team that could get past the first round in the right situation.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously playing in the Summit League, you don't have the hardest schedule in the world. But with that being said, you've also got teams like Oral Roberts, who you saw make the tournament last year, make a little bit of run. They could score. And to me on paper, it's like, wow, this is, Oral Roberts 2.0. You got a guy that can really score. Obviously, A. Smith scored a little bit last year, was the leading scorer in the country. Baylor Shireman doesn't quite score at that level, but you got a guy that stands out, can score, is playing a lot of minutes every game, and a team that is 21-4 coming out of the Summit League. This is a team I don't want to play. It reminds me a lot of that Oral Roberts team from last year. And I said it last year too, that Oral Roberts was a team people didn't want to play. I said it. I said Ohio State does not want to play this Oral Roberts team. And then they unfortunately lost to Arkansas and almost beat them.
Almost beat them at the buzzer. Almost beat them.
Yep. A. Smith almost hit that 3 to beat them. This is a team I like a lot. And I like the mid-majors that can just absolutely light it up. I don't want to play them. If I'm a Power 5 school and I get in and I've got South Dakota State in the first round, you better be ready. So.
Absolutely. A team I've got on my list that I think you also have on yours is Wyoming.
Yes.
19-3 in the Mountain West. Just a very good basketball team. I know Joe Lenardi's got it slotted them in at the 9 seed right now. That's a tough spot. If they can get off the 8 or 9 line, I think they're a team that's got a chance to make a run, maybe to the Sweet 16. They shoot the three. They got a couple guys shooting the three ball really well. Drake Jeffries is one of them. Um, I like them a lot. I think that's a team everybody's got to watch out for.
Yeah, for sure. They're one that I had that are dangerous. They got two guys, Ike Graham and Hunter Maldonado, have accounted for 50% of the team's total points. Together, they're averaging 40 points per game, and that's excluding Drake Jeffries, who is averaging 11 a game and is shooting 46% from three. That's fifth in the country in three-point shooting percentage. So you've got two guys that are scoring half your buckets, and then a third guy who's fifth in the country in three-point shooting percentage. That's another team I don't want to play. That's three guys that are legit. You said that they've got him penciled in at a 9 right now. The 8-9 matchup, obviously, always a really, really good game, but tough for both teams. And then it's almost one of the worst spots in the tournament because then you get to turn around and play the 1 seed. So, not only are you getting to play another team that is usually pretty good. I mean, usually the 8-9 teams are Power 5 teams that are able to sneak in. I mean, we saw OU in that 8-9 game last year. I believe Missouri, correct, that they played in the first, Missouri. In the first round last year. I mean, if I'm OU or Missouri, I don't want to play the other one in the first round and then turn around and play a 1 seed. So that's tough. Year. Yeah. And you get to play one of the best teams in the country. Yep. So that 8-9 is tough, and seeing Wyoming move past that, I don't know. We'll see what number 1 they draw. If they do get that 8 or 9 seed, see what 1 they draw in what region. But I also could see this team maybe being the team that upsets a 1. So I think it's a very, very good team.
Yep. A few other teams I've got marked down, more on the radar teams. All 3 of the Pac-12 teams, Arizona, USC, UCLA, all having very good seasons, all ranked. I like Arizona a lot. They're really good on defense and on offense. I want to say they're right about in the top 10 on both of those on Ken Palm. And then Auburn, obviously, I mean, can't go without saying them. They've just been incredible to watch. No matter what you think of Bruce Pearl, he's done a phenomenal job at that basketball team. And then Gonzaga, obviously, they're top 10, number 2 in adjusted offense and number 10 in adjusted defense in Ken Palm, and number 1 overall in Ken Palm. And, they got to the Final Four last year, just came up short in the end. But those are a lot of really good teams. And then Duke looked really good against UNC, who isn't having the best year, albeit. But, I mean, those are a few teams that I think can make a long, long run in the tournament.
You mentioned Gonzaga have not missed a beat this year. Unfortunately, didn't get it done last year. Probably the best team in the country last year, and just didn't win the one game they needed to. Haven't missed a beat are probably at least my favorite going into the tournament. Headed into tournament time, at least, barring a collapse. Probably my number 1. I know Auburn's ranked number 1 right now. Another really, really good team. But Gonzaga's got the experience. And I think they're probably out for blood to get back where they were last year and finally get it done and win it all this year. Mark Few, obviously, very, very, very good coach out there in Spokane. Don't play in the toughest conference, but that hasn't seemed to matter in the last couple of years, really ever for Gonzaga, powerhouse program out there. I think they're probably my favorite headed into March. But I don't know. We'll see. They kind of got that stigma around about not being able to win it. So, One more team that I had as a team to watch. I got Tennessee Chattanooga. They're 20-5. They're 10-2 in the Southern Conference. Pretty good year for them. They are led by Malachi Smith, who's averaging 20.6. He's shooting 41.7% from three this year. He's already dropped 36 points against Murray State earlier this year. Dude can absolutely get a bucket. Kind of like I said about South Dakota State, this is a team that can score and a team that I don't want to play in the first round if I'm a Power 5 school whatsoever. You're looking at a guy who can make a significant impact in a tournament game when the spotlight's on him and you got millions of people watching, and you're probably going to be a favorite upset team, a favorite underdog that people are going to pick. I think he probably turns it on, and you see some big performances from him headed into March and into the tournament. So,
absolutely. I think that's about it for college basketball. Obviously, March Madness comes around. We'll probably have a bracket episode and dive deeper into it, see what the field turns out to be. Hopefully, those mid majors that we mentioned can all make a tournament and hopefully entertain some people.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're getting down into the crucial part of the season now. Obviously, you want to be playing your best basketball at the end. But it's kind of just wait and see for these teams. These mid majors that we mentioned. You got to clean up the rest of your conference. Every game matters. Every game you lose is going to drop you way more than every game you win.
Yep. And you definitely don't want to lose in the conference tournament, because
you definitely don't want to lose in the conference tournament. You don't want to put that into the committee's hands. Yeah, because, South Dakota State 21-4, you go out and win the rest of your games, and you maybe make the conference tournament final, but you don't win it. You finish with 5 losses, and you might not be in the tournament, or you're stealing a bid. You do get in, and another team from your conference steals a bid. And you're kicking a team like OU potentially out of the tournament.
OU, UNC.
So, yeah, for sure. So we got a big game coming up on Sunday. Everybody's favorite game of the year. We got the Super Bowl. So I know we primarily focus on college sports here. It's the Super Bowl. We got Bengals versus Rams in LA, Rams at home. We got to talk about it. What's your prediction? What are your thoughts on it?
Obviously, the Bengals have been a phenomenal story this year. Won their division. I don't think anybody had them winning their division. Obviously, Steelers, Browns, Ravens. Browns and Ravens obviously were probably the 2 favorites coming into the season. The Bengals just surprised everybody. The defense, it wasn't great, but it was good enough. It got the job done. And obviously, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, just absolute stars on the offensive side of the ball. That offensive line really, really bugs me, especially going into a game against the Rams. Arguably the best player in football in Aaron Donald. And then Von Miller. I just see that as a very, very tough matchup for that Bengals O-line. But if there's anybody that can overcome it, it's Joe Burrow. As we've seen beating the Chiefs. I've got the Rams beating the Bengals 31-21. I think it's going to be a tight game. I don't think it being in LA is going to matter much. The fans out there aren't the greatest, and obviously the Rams moved there recently, so I don't think that's going to matter much. But I think this year might not be the Bengals' year.
Yeah, I've got Bengals beating the Rams 24-21. I think when you get hot, you stay hot. And I think a deciding factor for this game is going to be one guy, and it is not named Joe Burrow. It is going to be Evan McPherson. Dude has been lethal this year as their kicker. He's legit, and I think he might be the deciding factor here. But as you mentioned, that Bengals offensive line, obviously the concern. And I'd like to throw it back a little bit to the draft. It seemed just almost penciled in that the Bengals were going to take an offensive lineman, and the pick comes in, and it's Jamar Chase. And there was some talk about Jamar Chase, granted, because of the Burrow LSU connection there. But it just seemed like, okay, yeah, that'd be cool if it happened, but that's not what they need to do. They need to take an offensive lineman. You got your franchise quarterback who just got hurt. You need some protection, and then it was kind of like oh my God, they actually just took Jamar Chase. Like, what are the Bengals doing? Like, they're going to ruin this kid's career in Joe Burrow. And then now, almost a year later, you're in the Super Bowl. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I think everybody that said, why the hell did you take Jamar Chase, back in the draft looking stupid now. Nobody saw us coming. You go back and look at predictions. I mean, the Bengals are anywhere from 2 to 4 wins. And then here you are in the Super Bowl. So I don't know, but I don't know if the Bengals can get it done. I want them to get it done. It's ambitious. You're playing in LA. As you mentioned, LA fans, not the most diehard in the world, but I mean, you're in your home stadium. It's more than just fans. I mean, you're in your own locker room. You're comfortable. You're parking in the same spot you have every day. You have the same routine you have every day. It's all that stuff outside. You get to stay at home instead of having to go to LA and stay in a hotel for, a week before the game. It's going to be a good game. It's the Super Bowl. It'll obviously be big. I'm excited for the halftime show. Get to see some old legends in there. I think that'll be good. I've got the Bengals beating the Rams. I think it goes either way. And I definitely enjoy this matchup a lot because I don't think anybody had it predicted at the beginning of the year, and it's not the same teams. I mean, that's kind of the things we hate. We like seeing dynasties for sure, but it also gets frustrating when, you've got Golden State and Cleveland every year. You've got Alabama and Clemson every year. You had the Patriots every year for like 20 years. It's been the Chiefs recently. Now you've got Bengals and Rams. I mean, what the heck? So I don't know. I'm excited. And I think the whole country's excited. I mean, you've got Matt Stafford, who was stuck in Detroit for years, finally goes to LA in his first year. You've got, to me, it seems like David versus Goliath. I mean, you got these star-studded Rams. I mean, OBJ, Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey. Stafford, Cooper Kupp, have come out this year. And then you have America's sweetheart, Joe Burrow, on the other side. And obviously a phenomenal team with, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon. But they weren't supposed to be here, and they're not supposed to be here. I mean, I don't think anybody looks at this Bengals team and says, they're one of the top 2 teams in the NFL. But when you're hot, you're hot. And when you've got Joe Burrow at quarterback and a dude that wants to win, you're going to win. Joe Burrow got something big on the line too. He could become the first ever player to win the Heisman, the national championship, and the Super Bowl. So I think that'll be cool to see. And honestly might cement his legacy in the all-time great quarterbacks for, if you're combining college and NFL already. And he's 2 years in. I mean, to say basically nobody
1 year after the injury. Basically 1 year. And I believe it. I say he's the only player ever. I believe the stat is quarterbacks. He's the only quarterback to ever do it. I don't know if there's been anybody else. I'm sure there probably has. But quarterback being the only one to ever win the Heisman, national championship, and Super Bowl. I mean, that, if you're combining college and NFL, I think that cements you in with the all-time greats. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, he's also one of few to go undefeated, Heisman, national championship, number 1 overall pick. I mean, and this is a guy who didn't even play at Ohio State. He was as far down as the depth chart as it gets. Transfers to LSU. Has a pretty good year first year.
Yeah, wasn't great, but I mean, it was very solid. And that UCF taunt kind of changed history.
It's and it's wild because you look back on it, and him getting laid out after he throws an interception is like the turning point in his career. It's almost like he went villain after that and has just taken off. And it's wild to see because in that moment, him on hands and knees on the ground, it's almost like you can see it, like him just say to himself, like, this isn't going to happen again. And he's completely changed. And I think that's why everybody loves him, is because he's been like the underdog story that has turned it into no longer an underdog. I mean, I don't know. I love him, as you can tell. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's probably one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But on the flip side, I also love seeing Stafford, stuck in Detroit and hops over to LA, and is able to take him to the Super Bowl in his first year in LA, and gets Cooper Kupp all sorts of records. And I don't know. I think it's an absolute must-watch Super Bowl. There have been ones in the past that I say, whatever, just check the score the next morning. I think this is an absolute must-watch. And finally, we have a good halftime show as well. So hopefully the commercials are good too. Get the whole package. Commercials been slacking the last couple of years.
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
Yep. They haven't been as good as they used to. I know. I feel like that's like half the fun about the Super Bowl too.
Oh yeah.
Is every
especially all for the kids,
Yeah, I know. And that's what, like, looking back on like my childhood, I felt like you used to have all the good like Doritos commercials and everything. And
yep.
I know. And now they just aren't as good anymore. And then we've had some halftime shows that have been, personally, I have not enjoyed.
Yeah, mediocre.
The J-Lo Shakira one was eventful, but not for the music. And then but who all is it this year? Dr. Dre, Eminem, Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar.
I don't get and then Mary J. Blige is in it as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just I think it's just kind of the Compton thing.
Yeah.
And if I had to guess, probably dropping an album this year. That's obviously off topic. That's music, but gets him kind of back in the spotlight. So we'll see.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I don't understand the Kendrick Lamar connection. I mean, you got all these oldies. Yeah, but I mean, you mentioned the Compton. But I don't know. I mean, you've got Eminem, Dr. Dre, Mary J. Blige, and then it's like, oh, hey, here's Kendrick Lamar, this like recent, 2010s artist. I don't know, but get to touch into
It'll be exciting.
Halftime show a little bit. It's a must-watch Super Bowl. It's a must-watch Super Bowl for sure.
Absolutely.
It'll be good. Sunday night, as always, Valentine's Day the next day. I'm sure all the girlfriends and wives out there are gonna love that.
Yep. Absolutely not.
I'm just saying, the Monday after the Super Bowl should be a national holiday. If I was president, that would be the first thing I would put in. I'm just saying. So, all right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. That's all we got today. As always, we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we got you our thoughts on OU and Nebraska basketball this year. One pretty average, but still got some important games headed up in to close their season. And then Nebraska, obviously, an atrocious year, and we'll see what happens with the rest of their year. Some teams to watch this year. Excited for March Madness as always, and then had to get the Super Bowl projections and our thoughts on that at the end. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you again next week. See you guys.